Okay, I do believe I am live, but usually we have to wait just a few minutes for the uh, video channel to update, and then I can post the link and then begin class properly. So if you're watching this later, I apologize. There's going to be maybe 1 or 2 minutes here. We're just kind of listening to me ramble about rambling, and that's it until I can start the class. I just need to wait for YouTube to update their links so I can give a direct link to everybody who is likely waiting, I'm sure waiting in the classroom on this snowy day while your professor, is relatively comfortable and didn't have to walk so much today. Okay, YouTube, come on. Let's get this video. Let's get this video going. Yes, 3 people are watching already. Excellent. Hello, how do you do? I'm just getting in the broadcast link for everybody in case you are out there. Okay. Here's a link to our broadcast from today. And send a copy of everything to everybody immediately. Excellent. Sweet. Email was successfully sent to all course users, so that's probably a good signal that we can kind of already get started. I'm going to go ahead and start our little video today by the way, if you are joining us with a Google account, you can type in chat, say hello or something, like so, and I'll be able to respond. There is a bit of a delay, by the way. I was messing around in my earlier class, and my earlier class, they had like a good 10 minutes of downtime as I was trying to figure out the delay and why things weren't displaying. It was just because there was a delay. There's like maybe a 30 to 40-second delay. So if you ask me a question and I seem to move on to more different stuff, I will eventually see I will eventually see what you wrote and I will come back to it. But just be aware that there's a good 40-second delay there. So it could be literally a minute or two before we get before I can acknowledge your comment or your concern. It looks like, wow, we've got like 9 people watching. That's awesome. That's great. So let's go ahead and mess with my video editor some more. Here we go. Get into class. I do apologize for the lack of visual interest here. I'm really kind of limited here for how we're going to teach this material. Normally we would have like just kind of a nice back and forth discussion in class about effective messaging and course content and case construction. What does it mean to have a case and all of that? But we can't really do that. I gotta be the talking head. I know it's something hard to imagine, and just kind of tell you stuff about what to do. So that's really basically what we're going to do. We're going to go over the case construction for a crossfire case. And this is a good segue then to what I would like for you to do. This is more the announcements for the beginning of class, which is on Monday. There will be a quiz over this case construction material. There's no quiz today, obviously. We haven't been in class for there to be a quiz. So there you go. Monday there will be a quiz over case construction. I know this is different from your syllabus. I'll have to take a look at the tentative schedule there and figure things out. It shouldn't really affect the overall pace of the course in that we'll still probably start our debates at the same time. It'll just affect the quizzes when they'll be what they're going to be over. And again, quizzes are really just to serve as a way to, moving away from just freebie attendance points. It's really just a way for me to make sure that you come to class that day. They're not necessarily meant to be a punishment. But we'll yeah. So there you go. Monday there will be a quiz over case construction, so please do attend that class. Assuming, of course, that the roads are open. I don't know where it is, like where you are, but it is. If any, it is not improved, and if anything, it's worse. There's like a layer of ice now on the road. They just kind of went by and finally plowed my street maybe 20 minutes ago. Left some salt behind. I went out to check my email, and it's solid. Like the ice is still solid, even with the grains of salt on there and the scraping. So. Fun times. In any case, Monday there will be a quiz over case construction. Then we'll move on to your assignment, which is for Monday. You need, as class starts, at the start of class, I would like for you to have one negative card per person. I think you can hear my wife and child there in the background as they walk past the office. That's something that doesn't happen at school. For Monday, yeah, one negative card per person. So again, you can work with your partner, but again, if you're working with your partner, that will be 2 cards for the 2 of you. So again, and that's on the negative position. Again, if you have any questions, go ahead and write those in the chat. So now that we've got the announcements and front matter out of the way, let's go ahead and talk about the actual subject for today, which is crossfire case construction. This is, yeah. So crossfire debate is a special kind of debate in that it doesn't really have what we would normally consider to be normal, deliberative hallmarks, something like what we call prima facie burden. This is the idea in debate and legal courts that there is a minimum amount of information or argumentation that needs to take place before the event is allowed to proceed. So, for example, in law, there's this thing called habeas corpus, which is Latin for do you have a body? In other words, it means like if you're putting someone on trial for murder, there better be a body, right? If there's no is a negative card for the college athletes topic. Yes, it is. Thank you. Yes, it is. The negative cards are for the athletics topic. And again, there was that delay there. I saw your comment basically as it came up, and I'm just now getting around to it. So, yeah, again, try to be sensitive to that. I'm not ignoring you. I am simply just delayed. So, anyway, so habeas corpus. This is the idea in that if you're trying someone for murder, you have to have a body. Now, it's meant figuratively as well, like if you claim that one of your goods are stolen, then you have to prove that you owned said good. If somebody says, if I point my finger at dibs on DMR here, and I said, you stole my iPhone, I would actually have to prove to the court that, 1, I had that iPhone to begin with, and 2, then I can prove that it was stolen by dibs, right? So that's kind of what they mean by prima facie burden. It's this idea that before you can even get started, there's a certain number of claims or a kind of claims that need to be made, certain arguments that have to be presented before you can even really start the actual procedure of going through the debate or going through the court case. This is not really true in Crossfire. Crossfire is a discussion. Crossfire is a discursive format for decision making, and what that means is that basically there's nothing you have to prove except you do have a burden of proof in that your arguments must support your side of the resolution. Okay. So if I were to phrase this a different way, each claim you offer must be a reason to vote for your side. Okay, so you're not really making certain types of claims or certain types of arguments. You're not required to have or to say certain things, except that your arguments are, well, I guess complete, right? They have the claim data warrant. So we're looking at completeness, claim data warrant. But mostly they're just primarily this, right? Hopefully everybody can make a complete argument by now, but this is what we're really adding to the thing here. It's just each claim has to be a reason to vote for your side. Other than that, it's free game. And, anything is valid for you to say, and your opponent can't really say, well, you didn't claim X, so therefore you just lose automatically. That would be an example of a prima facie burden. But there is no prima facie burden in crossfire debate, in this debate that we're going to do first. So you don't have to worry about your opponent saying that you neglected to argue something vital. The concept really doesn't exist for crossfire. So that's the kind of debate that crossfire is. It's just discussion. And ultimately, the audience will make their decision on which reasons, resonate with their belief, attitude, and value system. And that's basically it. So, given that this crossfire then is kind of like the wild, wild west of debate, how do you construct your case? How do you construct your arguments so that people would feel compelled to vote for your side? And that's really the meat of what we're going to discuss today. And so the actual case format is as follows. And before I get too much into it, I would like for you to note, here, let's center this. I'm going to post this on Blackboard when we're done. I just want you to note that even though we will discuss the intro first, such, you should write your case starting with the claims that you want to make. So in other words, start with the body, not with the intro. Okay. And I'm going to try to put numbers when we're done writing all this out. We're going to put numbers next to each item that I want you to have in your case in sequence of how you should write it. All right? Even though, if that makes sense. That way okay, the attention getter is number 4, even though it is the very first thing that should appear in my case outline, if that makes any sense. So we're gonna go ahead and discuss those things in the order in which your case should look, so that you can read from it. I guess note number 2 is that you will read from your case during the debate. Okay, so you need to write it all the way out. Make sure it's a full manuscript when it's done. All right, that you could read it word for word and have it make sense. Again, you're not writing it in the order in which you will present it, but you are going to have something that you can read from word for word during the debate, something that you can refer to. Somebody asks you what your second claim was, you would be able to look at your paper and go, aha, here's what I said, second, comma, gosh, what's our topic again? The athletics topic. Second, athletics facilities cost millions of dollars that donors never give back. All right, I don't know if that's really true or not, but just giving you an example. That would be how you could answer that, okay? So you would need a full manuscript. All right, let's go ahead and get into it. Again, the very first thing that you need to have in your case is an introduction. Now, what does that contain? The very, very first thing that you should do is have an attention getter. Some kind of phrase, shocking statistic, or anecdote that, it clues the audience into the topic, but primarily builds interest. All right, I'm going to bold that here. All right, it primarily builds interest. So that way, this is just basically bog standard for any other academic assignment so far. Um, Start with by trying to get your audience's interest. So you need to do something more sophisticated than just go, "Hey, we're starting now." I mean, that might get people's attention, but it's not going to build their interest. So you got to put just a little bit more effort into that. Maybe you could talk about, hey, while I was researching this topic, I found out that most of the scholarship money at Division I schools actually goes to athletes and not to people with supreme academic records. And I feel like that's very unfair. All right, that would be an attention getter. Maybe not the best one, but it would help try to build interest there by going over some kind of shocking statistic or anecdote that maybe people wouldn't have thought about before. To try to get them interested in your position and try to get everybody to think about what maybe your case is going to be about. Right? So maybe yours is going to be about, based on that attention getter, probably going to be about scholarships. All right. So you have the attention getter. Then after your attention getter, you want to declare the resolution and your position on it. All right. And again, this is going to be given to you. So you'd be saying something like, me and my partner Fred here, we are on the affirmative side of the resolution, which states that college athletics. Ooh, how did I phrase that? College athletics are sorry, wife and baby are walking around. What college athletics are take resources away from the school rather than giving resources to the school, or whatever, however I phrase that. It's on our blackboard. So that would be an example of how you would declare your resolution and your position on it. That happens right after your attention getter. And then you have, in debate, we would call this a weighing mechanism. And this is something that maybe other places or other things would call a thesis, which is kind of what your goal is to demonstrate. Your goal is to demonstrate so that your audience knows that you have won the debate. So a lot of people would say, well, isn't my goal to just say, well, given this topic, to just say that, college athletics is a drain on school resources? Well, that's not quite there yet. You want to explain how they're a drain on school resources, and that's what your arguments are going to build towards, all right? So it's got to be more detailed than the resolution. More detailed than the resolution, and explains again how you plan on either supporting the resolution or showing it's not true or a good idea. Okay. So, for example, maybe a more complete weighing mechanism or thesis for your case would be if you can agree, and I really recommend you saying if you can agree, that college athletics cost more money than they bring in through, I don't know, spectators and donors, then we should agree with the resolution. Okay? Or you should agree with the resolution, because I wrote this, if you can agree, then you should agree. Okay, there you go. Right, and you can kind of see here, there's a couple qualities that makes this a good statement. First, it does add more detail. Okay? But second, it uses parallel structure between what you want to prove and voting for your side. Okay, so you can see here, I'm just going to highlight it here, if you can agree, and then you should agree, with the resolution. All right, so this way you have some kind of, well, some congruence here, agreement between these ideas. All right, and that's really important for helping people understand what it is you're really asking them to do. You're asking them to vote on your side, yes, but you're asking them on the basis that they agree that college athletics cost more money, right? And if they associate that with voting for your side, then the moment that you've demonstrated that to their satisfaction, they know they're going to vote for you, right? And that's really what you want. Okay, so we've got the attention getter, we've got the declare a resolution, we've got the weighing mechanism, and yeah, we've got some tips about the weighing mechanism there. And yep, we're good. So that is, and then of course, you need to have some kind of transition to the body. And then your body is where, I don't like how that broke. Okay, your body is where, so this would be something like, our first argument today is, you know, whatever it happens to be, insert argument there. Your body is pretty simple. You just go, you know, claim, data, right? Don't forget source citation, and your warrant for whatever the claim is. But you also want to make sure the warrant refers back to your weighing mechanism thesis thingy. All right. So if my claim is the typical football stadium costs more money than a typical college team will make in 20 years. Okay, that's my claim. And then I have data from the National College Athletics Association where, I don't know, Dude Bro McPherson says the typical college football stadium costs $50 million, but every 20 years we expect college teams to make about $30 million. Okay, and then your warrant would be, well, obviously, hey, the cost of the football stadium over 20 years is way more than what they'll actually make, which demonstrates how they are costing more money than bringing in. Right, and this is one reason then, the fact that the football stadiums cost so much, to vote for my side. All right, and that's exactly how you would write it in the warrant, if that makes any sense there. Right, you want your warrant to refer not just to your claim, but also to this, so that everything is tied up in a nice little bow. And you just do that. You don't really need for this debate. It's the maximum speech time. We'll talk about the speech timings later and how exactly what goes down and when it goes down and who's doing what. We're still at the prep stage, so don't worry about that yet. But what I'm saying here is that your speech is only going to be a maximum of 4 minutes long, which means that you only need 2, maybe 3 of these claim, data, warrant sets. You only nearly need 3. Because remember, you're going to have an introduction that takes time, that includes a very important weighing mechanism, which maybe you have to explain a little bit. So that takes time away from you. And then you also have a conclusion. And just like any other academic assignment, your conclusion is really just a review of what was said and a closing statement that reminds the audience what you want them to do, which is just a rephrase of your thesis statement asking them to vote for your side. So conclusions can happen pretty quickly. They would probably be the shortest part of your case. Again, here, list out the claims. All right, so it's just a list. You don't need to explain the claims in their full again, of course, because then you'd end up giving your whole speech over. But no, you just review what was said. Today we argued the cost of football stadiums, the cost of training the athletes, and the indirect cost of cleaning up after the spectators. I don't know. And all of these things add up to a picture where college athletics are not sustainable, where they are using resources from outside college athletics to try to prop them up, and that's how they're draining school resources. Please vote for the affirmative side if you feel like this is wrong. Okay, there you go. That would be an acceptable conclusion. Very short, takes only a few seconds, but you need to have it because you need to remind the audience of those things. And that is the case structure for Crossfire. This is the least complicated case structure, which is why we're doing it for our first debate. You only really have an introduction where you tell the audience what you're going to tell them and why it's, and why you would vote for their side. Then you go about doing it in the body with your 2 to 3 claims, and then you just kind of wrap things up by reviewing what you told them and reminding them what exactly you want them to do, how exactly you want them to vote, and on what basis. All right. So, what order should you write this in? Well, again, here let's go ahead and say that you write, this set first, then this set, then this set, and then you want to think about, okay, here are the claims that I've written out. These are the things that I want to argue. Is there something in common between these 3 things? Well, okay, they all deal in some aspect with money. So that means that I will want, therefore, my audience to make this decision on the basis of money. So then I'm going to write my weighing mechanism. All right. After I do that, I can just kind of fill in the rest. This would be what, 5? This would be 6. And this would be 7 and 8. All right. So that's kind of the order you want to go in. Start with your arguments, finish the arguments first, write them all the way out. Again, you probably will want to review these after you figured out what your thesis statement is. All right, that's, again, at the very end. I was about to skip it, wasn't I? So you do your claim data warrants, and after your claim data warrants are done, you need to ask yourself, I'm going to ask yourself, what theme or idea do all these claims have in common? And this is, again, this can be a tricky question, and I can certainly help you with this. I help our debaters on the debate team with that question all the time. Trying to find a good kind of, you might have 3 separate reasons here, but there is always something that they share, and it goes deeper than just, well, these are 3 independent reasons not to vote or to vote against college athletics. It goes deeper than that. Usually they'll deal with money. Like, you can have 2 claims that deal with money and 1 claim that deals with time. I don't know, but time is money, as they say, and so you can kind of, you make a weighing mechanism that says, if you agree that college athletics costs time or money that will never be reinvested in something more productive, then you should agree with the resolution. See, there you go. I switched it up. Not all these claims were about money, so I just kind of included the aspect of time and the idea of investing time and money. All right, that we'll never get what we invest in college back. All right, that's basically how that boiled down as I continue to think about it. So again, claims first, weighing mechanism, and then you can just kind of fill in the rest. That's really the main sequence. 1, I know I've written more than that, but this is like 1, 2, and then everything else can just kind of follow from that. Just don't forget to make sure your warrants refer back to this weighing mechanism, which again you write after you have the claims already solidified. And that's it. That's what I've got for you today. We're gonna, yeah, I had originally planned, a quiz. We were gonna go over the arguments on the Google Drive, and that would have filled out those 20 minutes. But we'll just have to tack that on to Monday. We'll read over the arguments that have been submitted. We'll read over those arguments. We'll have the quiz, and then we'll get on with class on Monday. Um, and yeah, this is what we can basically do with the materials and time and stuff that we have today. So if you have any questions, please go ahead and ask. Again, I want to kind of conclude by reminding you that there will be a quiz over this material. All right. I'm not going to be quizzing you on this, so why don't we just go ahead and delete that. But any of this other stuff, I could ask you about the burden of proof, prima facie burden, and of course anything in the case format. I'll probably ask you a question about what order you should write your stuff in. It won't go into the detail that this little sheet does where I go up to 9. I'll just kind of probably ask you, you know, out of the options below, which should go first, and the answer will be start with writing your claims. um, so that's what we're looking at on Monday. Turn in your negative, have a negative card to turn in over the weekend. Again, you can work with whoever you want, but we just need to have one card per person. All right, well, I've rambled for quite a while after I kind of concluded our case construction little mini lesson there, and I don't see any questions in chat. So once again, I want to thank you for your flexibility today. It was great seeing. We've had views that go down to 12, but up to 18. So at some point, it seems like almost everybody has attended. So I really appreciate that, and I just want to say that, looking over our activities in class so far, the discussions that we have, and the results on the quizzes, we're going pretty good. So I hope you feel pretty good about how the semester's going. I anticipate that we'll be doing great things as we start our debates and our actual debating. So, all right. You all have a great Friday. Do be safe out there. Like I said, I look out my window here and I really don't see any improvement in the weather conditions. So if you haven't been out yet, be extra careful if you do have to leave. And of course, if you have been out yet, this is probably old news, but again, please do be careful. I don't want to wake up to anything on my email saying that you had broken your leg. So again, thank you so much. I will see you later on Monday. Have a great day. Oh, one last thing. I always do that. If you have a friend that doesn't know where to find this video, please refer them to the broadcast link. They will get a recorded version of this video through the same link that you followed to get here. So, there you go. Again, have a great, happy Friday. Stay safe.